All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the Dedicated Show. My name is Kate Strashny, and I'll be your host for today. Really excited to have a speaker that I've known personally for, I don't know, probably 6, 7 years at this point. Kristen Kehrer. She's going to join us to talk to us about what in the world is developer advocacy. She started a new role recently at Comet, and I really can't wait to hear what she's been up to, how she got that role, what is this new role that everyone's talking about, and maybe if you're interested in learning more about how you too can become a developer advocate, you can learn about that as well. All right, before I bring her on, I do want to remind everybody this is an interactive show, so feel free to ask us questions, leave comments. We try to engage with the live audience as much as possible, and we'll tune in after the show if you're watching the recording. Feel free to ask questions and comments as well, because Kristen and I will both sort of jump in and try to address those after the fact as well. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Kristen up on our stage here. Hello, hello.
Hello. How's it going? Happy to be here.
Awesome. I'm excited to do this with you again. I know we started talking probably in 2017-ish, maybe 2018.
Early 2018, yeah.
Yes, we kickstarted things as part of the data science office hours, which was, for those who don't know, it was a group of people where we just basically got together every couple of weeks and talked about data science topics. At some point, we even wrote a book together, and I feel like it was such a long time ago. I think the pandemic sort of threw all my timing away. But yes, we wrote a book here called Mothers of Data Science, where we interviewed some awesome data scientists. It's on Amazon if you want to check it out. All right, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and let Kristen introduce herself. For those who don't know you, please tell them your background. What is it that you do?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, I'm Kristen Kehrer. I have been a data scientist in industry for the last 12 years across the utilities, healthcare, and I spent 6 years in e-commerce. I also, in 2018, when I met Kate, started building my own business and was able to leave corporate in January 2019 and did quite well my first year off of my own, doing a mix of consulting, freelance work, and some teaching for UC Berkeley Extension, and creating course content for some of the big universities' online data science courses. And I have just recently, in the last month, actually returned to working for a company. So now I am working for Comet. And if you haven't heard of Comet, they have a software that allows you to very easily take basically a snapshot of your model runs so that you have all your dependencies, the exact environment that you were working in, your code. So, right, that's different from GitHub where you commit and then you might write something and then run it and you don't have your most recent. This is like literally a snapshot of your last successful run. And then it also is, machine learning tracking in production. So if your model starts to drift or whatever and you need to tune it, part of the software is for that as well. But you can start playing with the software yourself. Like if you are in Python, it is Comet_ML, and you can start tracking your own machine learning models. And there's also like a really awesome GUI that gives you metrics just out of the box that you're able to like really easily track your different models.
Awesome. I love that journey. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. I think the main thing the audience can get out of this is you can define your own career based on your own terms, right? You've made a decision to leave corporate and you're like, okay, I remember talking to you about this because you made the move first, and we were both wanting to go off on our own, and you did it. And then we would chat every couple of months and I'm like, are you still okay? Like, are you still doing it? Like, I love it. This is great. I think that was part of my motivation as well, is seeing somebody else who I knew had a corporate gig and sort of got over that hurdle of not expecting a biweekly salary and sort of taking that risk on your own. So great to have watched you go through that journey, and you look very, very happy. So I'm assuming things are going well in your first month.
Yeah, no, I am. I'm loving it. I didn't really know that developer advocacy was a thing a couple months ago, and then once I learned it was a thing, it was very clear that it was going to be a good fit for me, for sure.
So developer advocacy is a thing. Let's talk about that thing. How would you describe that thing to somebody who's maybe a data scientist or data analyst?
Yeah. So developer advocacy in the pure sense is supposed to be somebody who is advocating for the developers. So it's somebody who is maybe using the software of that company and helps others to use that software, and then also drives awareness. I think for myself personally, it was like really valuable that I had already built a brand, because it is a very broad thing. We also hear the term evangelism, which is maybe more expected to be that brand awareness driving in social media. Whereas developer advocacy, I think the term, specifically when it was first created, was like somebody who is supposed to advocate for the developers, maybe the types of features that should be added, and just like really a voice for the customer. But there's sort of this like fluid, you're on social, maybe top of funnel, driving awareness and creating blogs, tutorials, all the fun stuff we love doing. You'd be.
I was going to say, that sounds like so much fun, and that's a real job. That's awesome. I love it. So we've got a bunch of questions and comments that came in so far. Just quickly, we'll check in. I see Scott here in the front row. As always, Scott, thank you so much for the support. Daniel just saying hello. Scott. Derek is saying hello. Samuel's saying hello. I saw some familiar faces in here. I think Susan saying, hey, ladies. Folks are asking about the book. Like, how do you get the book, and what is the book? So the book... Hold on. I just want to show people it looks great upside down or right side up.
Great upside down.
We designed the cover together. It was a joint effort. We wanted it to be colorful, and I think we used Canva to design. I think, Kristen, you also introduced me to Canva, which I love Canva. I remember you told me about it. I'm like, I use PowerPoint. You're like, no.
No.
So yes, it's called Mothers of Data Science. We interviewed Alice Zhao, Carla Gentry, Kathy O'Neill, who I got to meet recently, Claudia Perlich, Deborah Rebichez, Jacqueline Nolis, Natalie Evans-Harris, and Olivia Parr-Rudd. I interviewed them and basically asked them how do they get into their roles, what do they think of the future of the role, and what it's like to be a mother in science. I know it's very specific, but for those who are in that role, I think it's very beneficial to just hear other stories.
Yeah. But we did publish this like a little after a couple months after the pandemic hit, and we had done these interviews prior to the pandemic. And so I find it interesting, like a big piece of what I spoke about was my difficulty being able to find remote work as a mother and how that would have benefited me. And now, just the world of work has changed, and finding remote work is way simpler than it was a couple years ago.
Absolutely. That was my biggest struggle when I became a mother, was looking for work. And this would have been so easy. I could have just done everything. But no regrets, because that's why I got into data, is when I was looking for work, and I found it because there was a job opening in the data analytics space. So.
Yeah, I mean, would you have gone off on your own if remote work was available? I don't know that I ever would have built up my own brand if I could have just started in remote work.
Yeah, I think we had similar motivations, and that really put both of us into doing things. All right. There was a question from Susan, and I'm like trying to find it. She was asking if the bus was on time today. And
the bus was on time today. That's a nod to my computer vision project that I'm working on. I appreciate it, Susan. At least I assume that's what it is. That's what I'm taking it as.
Yes. Why don't you tell the audience about your computer vision project, just so they have a bit more context there?
Yeah, so this was also an opportunity for me to leverage Comet and sort of see how it works. So basically in Python, I built a computer vision model to detect when the bus was going by my house. And so I am fortunate that the bus actually drives by this window that's right in front of me. So it drives by my house and has to turn around and come back and picks up my daughter at the end of my driveway. So when the bus is originally driving by, I have a couple minutes. So this model detects the bus driving by my house and sends me a text so that I'm then able to tell my daughter to go put her shoes on to go out to the bus. Now, the model's still under construction. I definitely get a number of false positives. I'm currently working on cleaning up the code so that I can share the GitHub online. Last night I scrubbed all my personal information from it. That's sort of the project that I'm working on that I'm very excited about.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love how you're just using things like computer to help life easier. Life application, I think, is what makes this super exciting. Instead of thinking of code in this abstract way, algorithm, you're like, how do I make sure my child doesn't miss her bus? Like that's pretty awesome. All right, so there was a question. We're getting back to developer advocacy. Ravit's asking, what are some of the challenges as a developer advocate?
So for me, right, because I can only speak for myself, and I've been doing it a month. However, I do have the experience of looking through all the job recs, and so I think the challenges for myself is just that what I have the opportunity to do is very vast. And so for me personally, when my new boss is saying, hey, like, what are we going to do? I came up with the things that I wanted to do and submitted that. And, he thought they were good ideas, but I could see somebody who has not built a brand in LinkedIn or on social media in general having a very difficult time. It's not really or at least in my position, it's not really an entry-level role. Like I came in and I was sort of driving what I planned to do, how I planned to get the word out and what mediums I was going to use. And I know my way around, Medium, email marketing, blogging, promoting on social media, and how all these different platforms work. And, I also know my way around Reddit, and I bet, people younger than me are going to be better at, things like TikTok or whatever. But, being able to really come in and understand what my strengths were and how I could best contribute. I could see that being a challenge for somebody who hasn't also built a brand in data.
Right, absolutely. I think it's a great prerequisite to have a strong brand. People already recognize you and can you're credible to talk about something, showing your expertise. Do you think that there's a technical knowledge component? Like, do you have to be in the technology that you're at for?
Yeah, so I applied to a couple. So first of all, I found out about developer advocacy because a recruiter came to me in February and said, hey, have you heard about developer advocacy? And of course, I've seen people online. I've known a couple developer advocates, but I didn't realize that it was so widespread. I didn't realize that there were so many of these roles available, and that particularly the startups were really looking to hire these people. And so for me, I was looking for software that I knew that I would be able to speak to as well. And not every software is going to be a fit for me like that, that sort of lines up with my experience. I sort of forgot what I was going to, so you do typically, these companies are looking for somebody who can code, because you are advocating for other developers. So they want somebody who can converse with other developers. They want somebody who's going to be able to build code demos, tutorials, write blog articles that involve code to help spread the awareness. I think that there are developer advocate roles that aren't necessarily like in the center of tech. You know, and I think that there are developer advocate roles that we're going to see for, you know, like dashboarding software and stuff. But where I am in like the AI ML space, you're going to be expected to code to be working in those types of roles.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. We actually have a question here. You sort of started answering your talking about these, but how much experience do we need in the data field to start a developer advocate? Can a person who's start a career as a developer advocate?
Yeah, so I think it all depends, right? But if somebody had like a strong data science education and had started a blog and can demonstrate that they know how to position themselves publicly, you know, I don't think that you need to have, you know, like, of course, I've been in data for 12 years. I certainly don't think that somebody needs to be doing it that long. If you have, you know, a year or two in data and you are also using that time to share on social about, you know, what it is that you're doing and what you know about the field, I think you'd have a good shot at getting these types of roles, especially since there's a lot of them out there. I was really surprised, not as much when I look on Indeed, but when I look on LinkedIn jobs, there seems to be a demand. And I do get a lot of messages in my inbox, you know, people saying like, we just, you know, closed a round. Are you open to talking? And I'm like, no, I'm not open to talking, but it is pretty clear that the demand is there. And I think that there is like a difference. There's the people who maybe more, you know, are creating like blogs, tutorials, and they're not just like out on social media, like, wow, you know, and also too, like being comfortable with the idea of like speaking at a conference, creating your own deck and like speaking at a conference, which is all stuff that, you know, you don't need to have a million years in the field to do, but your time on social media is basically going to be a portfolio for this, you know, like that's, you've got your GitHub and you've got your presence on social media, and you know, you want to package those things up and, you know, apply and see what type of feedback you get.
Yeah, early on you mentioned blogging, and I wanted to sort of pick your brain on what you suggest who's listening to us right now, interested in this space, getting a job as a developer. Where should they start a blog? What's the best place?
So, I mean, the barrier to entry for starting a blog is zero. You know, you can go and start a Medium account for free. You can start writing articles, and then you can submit them to different publications on Medium. So towards data science, there's like a, you know, a bunch of different ones.
Dedicated. Yeah, there's Dedicated. We have one too.
Oh yeah, and Dedicated on Medium, I think is would be my first suggestion. That one's probably the best. That one's probably the best. But yeah, no, there's a bunch on Medium, and so it costs you absolutely nothing to start, but it really shows employers that you have initiative, and that you're comfortable putting yourself out there publicly with content, right? And then if you decide to take your blog a little bit more off of somebody else's and you know, onto your own domain, you can buy a domain name on, you know, Namecheap or GoDaddy. I wouldn't recommend GoDaddy as like a first choice, but there's a bunch of places where you can just buy a domain name and go to WordPress, and then you just need hosting. So I probably use hosting that I wouldn't recommend. I'm on Bluehost. I'd probably move if I could. I'd also probably avoid HostGator. But there are a bunch of different ways to host, and it's not that expensive either. WordPress, I think WordPress is free. You just have to pay for the hosting.
Yeah, I started using something called Flow WordPress is actually so much better. For those who use WordPress, you'll know you're always facing little updates here where you have like plugins and all this stuff and security issues and Webflow, all of that plus hosting. Pretty cheap too. Like you can look into cheap places. Someone on Facebook just joined and said that there are free domain hosts as well.
Ooh, do you know where you can get free domain hosting?
Yeah, let us know. That would be cool. So we talked about getting a job as a developer. So let's describe the ideal candidate, right? What are like the qualities of a successful advocate? What do they look?
Yeah, I mean, a successful developer advocate is going to be somebody who is just comfortable being in the public eye and is comfortable, giving tutorials. Maybe if you have some experience in education or being in front of the camera previously, you're comfortable presenting at conferences. But again, it's not like one size fits all for anyone. You don't have to give presentations or speak at conferences up on the stage. There are, of course, people who that's what they do and they're constantly traveling. I am not constantly traveling. We're talking that I might speak at, a conference or two, but that's not really what my role is going to be. Sorry, I'm just looking at the other questions.
Oh, no problem. So I think the added one more thing. He said what you is a point of view, which this is something I tell people when they tell me they have nothing to post. When I say, hey, content creation is great for building your brand and all that stuff. They're like, yeah, I don't know what to post. Everything's been said. And I'm like, no, you have a perspective. You have a unique point of view. Like you have your decade of experience to influence how you talk about who you're trying to advocate, because you've been through the challenges, you've been through the issues, and now there's this product that you can comfortably talk about and say, hey, I've been there, here's my experience, and here's why I think this is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. And once you start too, I find that like the floodgates open.
Yeah.
Like if you just put yourself out there, you do the first post, the second post is just like right there, and you're like, well, I gotta wait till tomorrow, space them out a little bit,
Yes. Just checking out the other comments. So Pierre is saying, take advantage of speaking on webinars. Many conferences are still online only, and those opportunities help to improve presentation skills. I personally completely agree. The more you do it, the easier it gets. I still remember my first few presentations. I wouldn't even want to make eye contact with the camera. I'm like, no. I had a script written out. It was so terrible. You could see me like reading, like this is, and I knew what I was talking about. I made myself really nervous. But what were your first few talks like?
Oh my God. I mean, so I was a high school math teacher in 2004. So I have been in front of, like, I don't know. I've just sort of always been speaking forever, I feel like.
So you were comfortable in front of, like, I was a communications major in college, and I was still like, oh my God, this to myself. Every presentation, it was also coupled with excitement to do it. It wasn't dread as much as it was nervousness of trying to be a good speaker. And then I realized that I don't really care much, where I had this fear, oh my God, people are going to think about this for their life, right? You wish you were memorable.
Most people don't care.
Most people are focused on, oh my God, what do you think of me? Like they just think about themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, something that you can't over. It is something you can train yourself. and you can start your own show to practice. Kristen, you have a cool show that you're doing. Tell us about your show.
Yeah, so right, again, speaking in front of people, I am starting a new show. It's called the Cool Data Projects Show. And so the hope is that, not the hope, what I am going to do is have people on that are talking, that have really cool projects that they're working on, and they're going to talk about the algorithms they use, how they attacked the problem. We're going to talk about best practices. But what I really wanted was a show where the purpose was getting right on and like really talking about how we solve problems in industry and like targeted problems, you know? So if you were to watch a bunch of these shows, once it's done, you'll have like a pretty good idea about how we go attacking different problems in different industries. Because I feel like it maybe isn't something that has been a focus. And I know for me, when I took my bachelor's is in pure math, my master's is in applied statistics. And then I felt like I got to industry and I was like, what is the best way for me to attack this problem? Like I'd have the data, I'd know what I was trying to do. And then I'm like, how do I do it? So that's what I'm hoping to solve for other people.
Okay, well, I think I love the name. First of all, it's so catchy. It's like, yeah, the Cool Data Projects. It's awesome.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you.
And how often are you going to be running the show, and where are you going to stream it to?
Yeah, so I plan on doing an episode every other week. If there's anyone out there who is working on a cool project in ML, AI, reach out. What was the other question you asked? I'm doing it every other week.
Where's streaming host?
Oh, where's it streaming? Yeah, so it's going to be on LinkedIn and the Comet YouTube channel. And I think that's where we're starting for now. So if we end up streaming other places, I will certainly let everyone know.
All right. Well, I guess for now, make sure you follow in. So I know you're going to be posting about this as for your next show and advertising where to find us. Following Chris, not doing so already. All right. Back to developer advocacy. Now, not everybody is going to have this type of role. It would be sort of the main that are hiring for this or should be hiring for this.
Yeah, so it seems like a lot of the ML, DL, AI startups are looking to hire for this role. I think that, part of the motivation is that people have realized that traditional ads don't work as well as, having that personal touch and that person that like, and trust out there. And so I saw, a lot of different companies that were in the, different cloud technologies, different software that helps you watch your model in production and catch drift. It was, a lot of it was for like data engineering technologies that weren't necessarily something that I was going to be so familiar with. And that's why Comet was perfect for me, was because I'm like, oh, I can build any type of machine learning model and it's going to become a demo because I'm taking a snapshot of that code. And so for me, it was just the perfect fit. I was like, this is the software that's going to work best for me. But I think a lot of the different startups are trying to hire for this position.
Yeah, I worked with Comet a bit in the past years. I think you lucked out with the team, so that's great. I love it. All right. Before I move on to the next thing, I just want to highlight Scott's comment. He has a fear of not public speaking, which I thought was like, because it's so true.
Yeah.
I went to a conference a few weeks ago. We sat in the row, and I think we both felt part of the conference, even though we really weren't. We were just trying to not really speak during the presentation. Speakers later approached both saying that we sort of told them to react to their jokes and stuff. pretty funny. He definitely not public speaking. All right, I think that's it for developer advocacy stuff. I want to say something else because I want to move on. I want to save time for something that I really to talk to you, also hear from others. Got about 7 months of the year. Today's like May, June, and I'm always trying to make out of the time I have in a decade, month, whatever. We wanted to talk a bit about our goals for the rest of the year. So, guys, audience, free to jump in. So your goals, if you have specific questions, as Kristen and I are discussing our goals, we happy to do anything. But let's start it. Kristen. What's your number one goal for the year?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit. What was that question?
Number one goal for the year.
Oh, well, I didn't figure out which one is number one. Oh man, I mean,
first on the mind then.
Yeah, no, I think my biggest goal for this year is to take that computer vision project and really build it out into a ton of blogs, get the GitHub code out. This is the first time I've worked with computer vision. My whole career has been in tabular data, and so it just means a lot to me because it's a stretch for me code-wise. Even though I'm using like a very simple library for the computer vision, trying to set up my GitHub in a way where, I've got different files for the places that are supposed to have different files, and, doing it right is not something that has been a habit for me previously. And so I'm like really looking forward to doing that right and getting that out.
Okay, nice.
How about yourself? Number one goal?
The number one goal is work a lot, even though I much. I mean, goal is to just, sit and read a and just do whatever I want and relax. And, like a back of my mind goal always running in the background. That's what's my other goal. Into concrete goal of what I want to accomplish this year. One sort of because I have two similar creative goals where you're creating your computer vision. I'm writing the color-wise, which is color for data storytelling. I was creating a course on LinkedIn Learning on how to build your personal in tech on LinkedIn. And both of those projects are equal in that they're going live sometime this fall, sort of up in the air. Almost done side of effort for the course, but got a long way to go for the color book. So I need to focus and do that. But those two are my, I guess, top in terms of I have to make a true effort to get those over the fence.
No, I'm the same too. I think coming back to working full time, like I really do have a goal around not letting myself get stressed and not trying to like overwork, because in my head, I'm always, my head will tell myself that, I'm not doing enough and I need to do more. And so then I put in more hours and I like don't set boundaries. Yeah. And then I end up in a place where things are expected because that's the precedent that I've set. And I'm just like trying to very actively stay on top of that and not set that and keep healthy boundaries, like a normal.
Those are always, and let me know past your boundaries. But hold on here. No, wait, it keeps moving. There. I want you to explain Earth. I was just just trying to do that one. So go ahead.
Yeah, so this is just the formula for the Bayesian posterior distribution. And so this is actually my own design. It is up on my website, datamovesme.com, and it is a butt pun. That is my shirt.
I love how you explain. Go. I think I actually have these. I still love I love data shirt. I wear that one all. You sent me a bunch of shirts when you just your store.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh yeah, I
yes,
did. I was like,
yeah.
Kate, how try on these shirts. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, I think even before I started the whole dedicated company. So that's we go.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
was
more
cool
goals.
swag.
Your turn, Kristen. What other goals do you have?
Yeah, so I obviously have goals around the cool data project show because that hasn't even started yet. And I would like to hit 100,000 LinkedIn followers this year if we're going to talk about, goals and vanity metrics. Like,
where are you now?
86.
You'll make it. Well, guys, make sure everyone who's listening now follow Kristen, help her with her goals. Find her on LinkedIn. And I think it's an important for you to focus on, especially in your new role, because the bigger and the better the employer, really what you're there to do, right? Is to evangelize, advocate for that brand. I think it makes sense. I have similar metric I'm trying to hit on LinkedIn. I just want to grow as much as, but a very specific YouTube goal I want to hit on YouTube. I want to get to 100,000, and I'm nowhere close to it. I think I'm like 31,000 at this point. Wait, is it 30 or 13? Hold on. It's like really, it was a big goal.
I love your big goals, though.
13. It's 13. I completed it. I have 13,000. I wanted to hit 100, and I still believe it's possible because YouTube sends out this play button for anyone who has 1,000 subscribers. And I'm like, why not me, right? Work hard. I think it is possible. I have heard of stories, people who consistently showed up. I know them personally, and they're done it. But every month, I tell myself this is my goal, and I barely put any content on YouTube, which really a disconnect between action and desire. So I have to work on that.
Do you have monthly YouTube goals?
I need to get some. I get distracted very easily by just random things. It's the beauty of running my business, but it's also a little downfall because I can find something interesting like, ooh, I should run a global survey. Take 6 months to do it. Crazy with it. Start another conference. Like I just these ideas, or write another book or an ebook. Oh my god! And I just try to not to go crazy, or I want to do TikTok, and it's hard for me to reel it all back in and say, what are your goals? I think what helps me is I have a week with remember Andreas Kretz? He's my accountability buddy. And we talk every week. And every time I tell him I'm going to do this and this, or if I have a goal, he's like, exactly how you're going to get there. And I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's write.
He's a pragmatic kind of guy.
He's given me upgrades where I'll tell him something and he'll just say, Kate, that is like that. Thank you. Because most they'll say, great, amazing, you could do this. It's somebody just remind you to take a step back and say, hey, weren't your goals to do less of this or that? Like, why are you doing?
Yeah, right. You had different goals last week.
yeah. Like we just went through our goals on Monday. So now I'm like super laser focused on the things I need to accomplish.
Ooh, Scott has a dirty math joke he's going to tell me later.
Why later, Scott? Why wait? We could bring you.
And then I assume that's Jen Cooper right there. It's showing up as LinkedIn user, but.
Yeah, I see. There you go. Oh, it's here. Oh no, this is Lindsay. That's Jen. Okay, she's she has a picture of her dedicated hoodie in the dedicated circle community. Folks want to see. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm just my notes to see what other goals I had. Do you have more? I mean, I have already, but they're not right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I plan to sort of do an audit of, like, where do I belong on social other than LinkedIn? and I want to get really concrete about how I'm thinking about the different social channels and come up with goals for them. So that's a step behind having 100,000 YouTube followers goal. So I'm going to figure out what my goals are for social.
It's right there, though. I looked into this. I set out all forms, and I decided YouTube and sort of Medium were going to be my top three flows ever. Just because of the organic reach on LinkedIn, TikTok, and the green feel of YouTube, where it's searchable years later. Like some of my best videos were the ones I made years ago, performing the videos I made, which could be that video has gone, or because people are searching for that even years later.
Well, and I wonder too how many people post on YouTube and like don't think of it as a search engine and don't think about, you know, like the searchability of titles and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. I've had to do a whole overhaul because I had, I don't know, probably at least 1,000, if not more, videos that I was looking at. So I had to thumbnail, I had to rewrite some of the descriptions, add some tags. I even started using TubeBuddy to help me with coming up with the right hashtags for the videos, which they're pretty good about that. And I think that has helped a little bit.
Totally.
But better content, I think, would help a lot more. So I don't know what is it about YouTube videos? I think I start coming up with obstacles like, oh no, it has to be a certain way, it has to be a certain quality, it has to be a certain length, and then like, oh, what do I even say? And I just give up on it. I don't know why it's so difficult.
No, video does that to me too. You know, like my sequel videos out there, like that was a big lift. And for some reason, it's either there's like no in between for me. It's either like this and we're getting on and we're just creating a video and it's sort of very on the fly, or it's overproduced. And I like have a really hard time hitting that middle.
Yes, I think I have a similar issue where it's either like whatever this says, this is going on YouTube, right? This is live on YouTube right now. It's going to stay on YouTube. But sometimes I get into this mood of overproduction and it'll take me 6 hours to create a 45-second video. I'm like, what? And then I'm disappointed by the number of views it gets because I'm like, I've invested so much time and why aren't people watching it the way I want it to be watched? So I think it's this happy medium, and setting a weekly goal, a monthly goal is probably a good idea. And maybe even laying out the content of, okay, I'm going to record this, I'm going to record that. I was never good at laying out content. I sort of just post whatever I feel I want to post in the moment.
Yep. No, I'm there with you.
Yes.
Sometimes even when I make a plan, I feel like I go back to it, you know, a week later and I'm like, that doesn't feel as good as it did a week ago.
You're telling yourself what to do and you no longer want to do it.
Yeah.
I think it also helps me. Like I have a whiteboard behind there in my room. It's a pretty big whiteboard. And it helps me. There you go. It helps me when I write the goals or task list on there. Because usually it's in my notebook here, which guess what? The notebook is closed most of the time and it's not in my face. Or I put it in a
notebooks. I like the 8.5 by 11s.
Okay. Yeah, I've always used sort of the, I guess, what is it, 6x9? Oh, you got the big boys. All right.
Yeah.
But for me, if it's not in my face, like if it's in a spreadsheet somewhere, neatly laid out, like if I don't see it, I'm not going to do it.
Same. I'm a paper person.
Yes. Well, paper/whiteboard, you know, whatever that's made of, it helps. But then my kids think it's
whiteboard / iPhone notes.
iPhone notes, yes. Oh my God. I recently looked back at some of my notes from like 2018, 2019. It was so much fun to see the goals I laid out for myself just randomly, like probably in meetings or traveling somewhere. And looking at life now versus 3 years ago, I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing most of this. This is crazy that I wanted to do this 3 years ago. Now I'm doing it. It definitely helps to write down where you want to go, because then you'll know when you got there, right?
Yeah. No, I feel like life is wild. Yep. Lots of my goals have come true too, in ways that I didn't expect them to. And then I look back and I'm like, wait a second, that's what I asked for.
Yes, and I love that.
Yep.
How about reading? Do you have any reading goals on your list?
Oh man, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't been reading a lot recently. Most of what I read is blogs on ML ops and data science, and like consuming too much of LinkedIn, and that's where I've been at recently. And you know, I've always been a sucker for self-help books. Like I will listen to audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But you haven't been doing that like this year mostly, right?
I think I've hopped around. I mean, this year, like the last 5 months, yeah, I just can't even think of what the title was. Like if I go to Audible, and then like some of these might be so cheesy that I don't plan on sharing.
Yeah, I do plan to share
like positive self-talk, and like
okay.
I'm into self-help.
I think I read a lot of self-help books. Even though like they might not be positioned as self-help, they've all helped me. But one of my other goals for the year is to actually read and or listen to, because I do like audiobooks as well, to 60 books this year, which
That's a lot.
might sound like a lot. And I think at first my goal was like 20 something, but in January I somehow had this really good reading month where it was just like reading a book a day. I'm like, oh, I could do 60 books easy. And then there are stretches of like a month or two where you're just not reading at all. And I'm like, okay, if I want to stay on this goal, I got to get reading. And for me, it's been helpful to just pick, for example, when early in January, I was building out my dedicated circle community. And I was like, okay, I really want to do a good job at building this community. So I bought 5 different books on how to build an online community. And I read those books so fast because every book had something that I can oh wow, oh my God, this is great. Let me apply this right now.
What was your favorite book on building an online community?
They're all like in my bookcase right there. I don't remember the title, but it was something that I actually almost didn't buy because the cover of the book was not well made. It looks like somebody did it in Canva, you know. I'm kidding.
Who does that?
It was something like 30, 60, 90, what you could do to get your 10th, 100th, and 1000th member, something like that, into your community. And I can get up and get the book for you, but I'll just tell you more about it. It gave you very, very applicable and practical tips, like how to actually, when somebody joins your community, how you should treat them.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking of it like a car salesman, where you buy a car and they don't just like take your money and say, okay, bye, here's your car. Like there are some car auto shops that do it the right way, where you buy a car, they help you find it, they show you around, they're like, this is why this car is good for you. Take it for a test drive, which AKA I started doing a free trial in my community. So it's kind of like a test drive of a car. Mm-hmm. And then you check in with people and actually say, hey, are you finding what you wanted to find when you first joined? Did you have any trouble meeting someone? Here's someone I think you should talk to, right? Like being there, being present, and doing these intentional check-ins, let's say a month into it, and saying, hey, is there something else you want to see here? And really taking their feedback and making them feel valued. And that's why they're going to keep coming back and staying. So
now, do you have difficulty, right? Because you're obviously doing all the things. And so when they say, okay, this is how you should, warm up or welcome your community, like, are you able to stay up with that while you're doing all your other things? Do you find yourself implementing those?
Yeah. So I get asked a lot, like how big my team is, right? Or say thanks to the dedicated team. And I'm like, okay, high five. They're the best. So, and the reason behind this, and I was planning a post later this week about some of the technology that I use, is technology. So some of those tips that I learned from the book was like welcoming each member and saying their name and saying how, I'm here for you if you need something. Now, what I noticed is the technology platform I use for my community, it's called Circle. You can integrate that with like Typeform and ConvertIt, and essentially I created an automation where every time somebody new joins my community, they get a private message, kind of like, it's kind of like LinkedIn, right? The community platform. So they get a private message from me that says, "Hey, Kristen, thanks for joining." It's very short, right? This way they know it's not like, if you created a whole essay, you know somebody copy pasted it. But if it's short and quick and has your name, like, "Hey, I'm so glad you're here. Let me know if you need help finding something," right? Just that quick. What I noticed is the shorter I made the message, the more people actually responded, because they're like, "Oh, Kate cares." And when they responded, it was easy for me to respond, because it's just like getting a message, and it was easy enough to keep up with. But technology definitely helps.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I think too, like another a reason why so I had a couple people who would work contract regularly, but I never really wanted to like, my goal was never to have a bunch of people. It was because that's a lot of extra responsibility.
Yeah.
What I really wanted to do was figure out just like the optimal way for me to live a lifestyle that I wanted to live while also doing this thing. And if something happened like a pandemic, I wasn't going to be leaving a bunch of people figuring out how they're going to feed their family, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I also personally just have delegation issues, and I've bought several and read several books on how to be a better manager and delegate more effectively. I'm always just the person that, I'm too nice almost, like, where if I hire someone, which I have tried, I barely give them work, because I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to give them too much." And then I'm like sitting there thinking like, "Oh, I'm paying this person, what are they doing?" And it's my fault. Like, I take complete ownership of this. Like, I obviously didn't give them enough. They would have probably just done it. Or I say, "I'll just do it myself, because it'll be quicker, and by the time I teach them, I could do it 10 times," right? That's the wrong thing to do. But
mental thing that tells me that in the time that it takes me to train somebody to do something, I could just do it myself, which, like, obviously I know that, like, that isn't the way that you should be thinking about it, and I can, like, logically work that through, but that's my, like, instinctual, that's what I go to.
I know. And I think we've probably also been spoiled by technology, because it does make it so much easier, where you might not even need another person. I remember talking to someone who has, I don't know, 1 or 2 million followers, and I thought he had like this giant team behind him. And I was talking to him, and I'm like, "Who are you hiring to help you with all this?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't have anybody." He's like, "It's just me." And it was an eye opener. I'm like, I was convinced that to grow, I would need to have more people. It's simply not the case. And I feel like having a person there stressed me out more, because I was responsible for them, making sure they had something to do, making sure it was something that wasn't too boring, it was valuable, they learned something. And again, like, a pandemic comes along, or a dry season in the business, where you're like, "Okay, I have to pay them and I'm not getting paid."
Yeah.
Or like, I don't want to let them go, because now they're relying on this income. So it's difficult.
And I love learning about SEO, email marketing, social media marketing, creating content. Like, I thoroughly, so many times I was on, that's when I was like just reading up books, whatever I could get my hands on, or I love casting YouTube to my television and just like popping some popcorn and watching educational YouTube videos.
Every time I do my nails, or if I do my hair at home, like if I'm curling my hair, it takes like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. It's always YouTube content. I just love it. I look for a question that I have, either in my business or whatever I'm interested in, find a good video. Once I'm like, okay, this person has good content, they're not just trying to sell me something. I just play it, and it's so nice. You can learn anything. I had a play date recently, and we were talking about kids and college, and I'm like, "I don't know if I want my kids to go to college." She was pretty shocked. She's like, "What do you mean you don't want your kids to go to college?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, they don't know if they need that anymore." I mean, obviously there are roles where you definitely need college. Like, if you want to be a doctor or lawyer, you really need that structure, and there's a lot of information to consume, and I'm sure they make it easier. But if you want to just get a job at something, you can probably learn a lot of it on YouTube these days, or online courses or something like that. So I still got time though. At least what, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. Oh yeah. Oh my God, it's like 10 years.
Yeah.
It's happening quick.
No, yeah. It's coming quick.
So, all right. I think it's a good time for us to wrap up. I know I still have some other goals to go through, but some of them are also personal, right? Like we're not going to just share every little bit here. But I think this was a great conversation. And Kristen, I want to thank you for taking the time to join me on the Dedicated show for like the 10th time that you've been talking to me. So I really appreciate this. And thank you to the audience for being engaged. I really appreciate all the comments and questions that came in. Kristen, before we wrap, where can people go to follow you, to learn more, and to stay in touch with everything you're working on?
Oh, yeah. So definitely go look me up on LinkedIn. That's sort of where I live. My blog is datamovesme.com. I haven't written as many articles recently, but there's certainly some that are coming. So watch that space.
Awesome. I love it. All right. Thank you so much, Kristen. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see everybody online.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Bye.